Ancient Buddhas in Asian countries. The evolution of Buddhist iconography in Asia. Arte Gandhara, Greco-Indian, 3rd century. Imagine a statue of the Buddha with a serene face, wavy hair, and robes that look like they came straight out of an ancient Greek sculpture. Strange, right? It feels like an impossible meeting between distant worlds. But that is exactly what happened. In the ancient region of Gandhara, located between what we now call Pakistan and Afghanistan, artists began representing Gautama Buddha in a completely new way. This happened centuries after the campaigns of Alexander the Great, when traces of Greek culture were still echoing through the region. The result was something fascinating. Almost like an artistic experiment, the Buddha appears with classical proportions, subtle muscles, and robes falling in natural folds, very different from the earlier symbolic traditions of India. Before this period, the Buddha was rarely depicted as a human figure. He was symbolized by footprints, a tree, or an empty throne. Then, suddenly, there he was, human, present, quietly observing the world. It was like someone flipped a switch in the minds of Asian artists, and once that switch was turned on, the history of Buddhist art would never be the same. But Gandhara still had more chapters to reveal. Art of Gandhara, 4th to 5th centuries. A few centuries later, the sculptures of Gandhara began to change slowly. Not a sudden revolution, more like the tide gradually rising along a shoreline. Artists started softening the Greek features and moving toward a more spiritual aesthetic. Faces became calmer, eyes more closed, as if the figure were seeing something, but not exactly in this world. The body still kept its classical elegance, yet it now seemed less human and more symbolic. Not just a teacher sitting in meditation, but someone who had crossed an inner threshold. Interestingly, this period also coincided with the time when Buddhism was spreading across Central Asia. The sculptures acted almost like silent messengers. They traveled alongside monks, traders, and stories, and every new land looked at those images and wondered, how should enlightenment look here? The answers would take unexpected forms. Art of Gandhara, 3rd century. If we look back slightly within the Gandhara tradition itself, we find even more experimental sculptures. Some resemble portraits of ancient philosophers. Others look almost like Roman emperors sitting in meditation. This cultural mixture created something rare in art history, a fusion point between civilizations. Imagine two rivers meeting. For a moment, you can see both colors of water flowing together. That is what happened in Gandhara. Indian spirituality met Hellenistic aesthetics, and from that collision emerged one of the most recognizable faces in world history. But while Gandhara was flourishing, another artistic chapter was beginning farther east. Early Gandhara art, 1st to 3rd centuries. During the earliest centuries of this tradition, the image of the Buddha had not yet found its final form. Some statues show the Buddha with a mustache, others with shorter hair. Some resemble noble aristocrats. It's almost as if the artists were experimenting with different versions of enlightenment. Which expression communicates true peace? Which posture looks most contemplative? Those silent questions were carved directly into stone. Gradually, certain features began repeating. The cranial bump known as the Ushnisha, the mark between the eyebrows, the long earlobes. Small details, almost like a visual code for enlightenment. And that code would begin traveling far and wide. Pala art, 8th century. Centuries later, in northeastern India, Pala art began to flourish. Here, the Buddha appears more refined, more delicate. The sculptures are filled with intricate details, jewelry, geometric patterns, lotus flowers carved with near microscopic precision. It feels like looking at a piece of spiritual clockwork. Artists of this era mastered bronze casting and polished black stone. And something interesting happens to the Buddha's face during this period. He seems quietly happy. Not a wide smile, not explosive joy, more like the feeling that appears when the mind finally slows down, like when the noise of the world switches off for a second. Nepalese art, 14th to 15th centuries. In the mountains of Nepal, the Buddha gained a new appearance, more golden, more ornate, more celestial. Here, Buddhist art blends with Hindu traditions and Tantric Buddhism. The statues feel almost alive. The eyes are painted, the crowns are elaborate, thrones are surrounded by cosmic symbols. It's as if the Buddha is not just an enlightened teacher, but also a kind of universal energy embodied, something between a philosopher and a star in the sky. Bhutanese art, 15th century. In the isolated kingdom of Bhutan, Buddhist imagery gained vibrant colors. Statues are often painted in strong tones, red, gold, deep blue. The Buddha's eyes are large and attentive, almost as if they are looking directly at the viewer. This is not accidental. In local tradition, religious art is not just for contemplation, it's also a tool for meditation. Looking at the image of the Buddha works like a mental trigger, like pressing a button that reminds the brain, return to the present moment. Sri Lankan art, 5th century. In the ancient kingdom of Sri Lanka, some of the most tranquil Buddhist statues in history emerged. Here, the Buddha often appears reclining, lying on his side, representing the moment of parinirvana, the final liberation. These sculptures have something hypnotic about them. The face carries a calm so deep that it almost feels impossible, like looking at the ocean on a day with absolutely no wind, no waves, no movement, just silence. Maldivian art, 10th century. Few people associate the Maldives with ancient Buddhism, but before the arrival of Islam, the islands were active centers of Buddhist culture in the Indian Ocean. The sculptures discovered there are smaller and simpler, possibly because of the limited resources of the islands. Yet there is something fascinating about this. Even in small communities surrounded by endless ocean, the image of the Buddha was still present, like a spiritual lighthouse in the sea. Chinese art, 11th century. When Buddhism reached China, something interesting happened. The image of the Buddha began reflecting Chinese philosophy. Faces became rounder, bodies more grounded. The statues feel stable, like a mountain quietly watching time pass. Here, the Buddha is not just a spiritual teacher. He also resembles a Taoist sage, a patient observer of the universe. Vietnamese art, 11th century. In Vietnam, Buddhist art developed its own elegance. The sculptures appear soft and delicate. The Buddha's features are gentle, like someone who speaks little but understands much. There is an interesting balance between Chinese influence and local identity, like hearing a familiar song played with different instruments. Korean art, 8th century. In South Korea, Buddhist sculptures reached remarkable harmony. One famous image shows the Buddha sitting in contemplation with a subtle smile. That smile is intriguing, small, almost invisible, but once you notice it, something shifts, as if the mind recognizes a silent truth. Japanese art, 8th to 12th centuries. In Japan, the Buddha underwent a deep aesthetic transformation. The sculptures became more minimalistic, clean lines, balanced posture, a contemplative atmosphere. Japanese art has a fascinating relationship with empty space, and this appears in the sculptures. Sometimes the silos surrounding the statue feels just as important as the statue itself. Mongolian art, 17th century. When Tibetan Buddhism spread into Mongolia, the sculptures gained monumental scale. Huge golden Buddhas. Some feel almost like spiritual architecture. They dominate the space around them, like mountains of wisdom rising from the landscape.
Malay art, 5th to 9th centuries. In the ancient region of the Malay Peninsula, Buddhism flourished through trade routes. The sculptures show Indian influence, but also local elements. Bodies are more elongated, robes simpler. It reveals something fascinating. Ideas travel, but they always adapt to the soil where they arrive. Javanese art, 9th century. On the island of Java, in present-day Indonesia, one of the most impressive Buddhist monuments in history emerged, Borobudur. This monumental temple is like a mountain of carved stone. Hundreds of Buddhas sit quietly facing the horizon, each one silent, each representing a stage of spiritual awakening. Walking through this temple feels like walking through a map of the human mind searching for enlightenment. Burmese art, 12th to 13th centuries. In ancient Myanmar, artists created Buddhas with soft faces and elegant gestures. The bodies are elongated, the hands delicate. There is a sense of gentleness in these sculptures, as if enlightenment was something calm, almost ordinary. Laotian art, 16th century. In Laos, the Buddha gained unusual proportions, very long arms, extremely slender fingers. These artistic choices create an almost supernatural aesthetic, as if the figure exists slightly beyond the human world. Khmer art, 7th century. In the ancient Khmer Empire, in what is now Cambodia, sculptures blended political power and spirituality. The Buddhas appear strong and grounded, almost like stone guardians of sacred space. Thai art, 14th century. In Thailand, one of the most elegant images of the Buddha emerged, the walking Buddha. Yes, walking. The body leaning gently forward, as if enlightenment were not something static, but a continuous movement. One step, then another, always moving toward awareness. If we look across Asia at all these images, something remarkable becomes clear. The Buddha never looked exactly the same. Each culture saw him through its own lens, like a beam of white light passing through different prisms. In India, he appeared as a spiritual teacher. In China, a silent sage. In Japan, almost a symbol of emptiness. In Thailand, an eternal walker. Yet the essence remains the same question echoing from more than 2,000 years. What does it truly mean to awaken? Which Buddha is your favorite? Do you prefer the ancient Greco-Indian styles or the serene interpretations of East Asia? If you enjoyed this journey through the silent history of Buddha images, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and continue exploring the next suggested video. Because sometimes, understanding the history of a statue is the beginning of understanding the history of the human mind itself.